Here, we'll work with the Appearance panel. An appearance attribute is an aesthetic property, like a fill, stroke, transparency, or effect, that affects the look of an object but does not affect its basic structure. And we've been using appearance attributes up until now, like the swatches panel and so on. But here we'll work with the appearance panel so that it helps us understand how an object is made, or what the parts of an object are. So I'm going to select the orange shape here, and I'll go up to Window and open up my Appearance panel. And you can see in the Appearance panel the various attributes that make up this object. We can see that there is a kind of an orange fill and a black stroke, a one-point stroke. We also have some options down there as well. So we can see that it has a drop shadow as well. So whenever you want to kind of understand how a shape or an object is made, the Appearance panel will help us do that. So we can change the appearance attributes right here in the Appearance panel. With that orange shape selected, I'm going to click the orange fill color box in the Fill Attribute row, and I'll change it to a swatch named Mountain 1. So there, that changed the color of that shape. I'll also click the words 1 point in the stroke row to show the stroke weight option, and I'll just change the weight to 0. So I'll just remove that stroke around the shape. Also notice that it has a drop shadow, and that also appears in the Appearance panel. I can click the eye to toggle the visibility of the drop shadow. I can just turn it off if I like. Or, with that row selected in the Appearance panel, I can just click the Delete Selected Item button at the bottom of the panel to remove that effect. So that completely removed the effect. Now, we can add additional strokes and fills to create different appearances to our objects. So with that shape still selected, I'm going to click the Add New Fill button at the bottom of the Appearance panel. And it added a new fill at the top of the panel. Now I'll click the bottom fill color, which is the original fill color, and bring up the Swatches panel, and I'll click the pattern swatch named USGS 22 Gravel Beach to apply it to the original fill. However, when I do that, the pattern doesn't show in the selected artwork because the second fill we just added is at the top of the Layers panel there, in the Appearance panel, I mean, and that's covering up that new texture fill there. So I'll click the eye icon to the left of the top fill row to hide it. I'll close the Swatches panel, and then I will click the eye icon to the left of that new fill that we added so that we can see the texture that was applied to that shape. So now I'll show that fill, and now I'll select the black circle that we're going to turn into a bicycle tire. And we're going to do that by adding additional strokes to that. So I'll click the Add New Stroke button at the bottom of the Appearance panel. And we now have a second stroke, which is a copy of the original. And I'll change the stroke weight to 10 points. And then I'll click the word stroke in that same attribute row to open up the stroke panel. And then I'll click the Align Stroke to Center button. Then I'll also select the dashed line and make sure that the dash is set to 12 points. And there we can see it added that dashed line inside of what is going to become our bicycle tire. And as we can see, clicking the underlined words in the Appearance panel shows more formatting options like we just did with the Stroke panel. So now I'll work on some text and adding additional effects to that. So I'll get my Type tool and I'll select that Mountain Ridges text. So notice in the Appearance panel that it says No Appearance. That's because we've selected the type, the text within. And you also see some of the options here are not available because we've selected the text. I'm going to switch to the Selection tool and then select the text object, and that will allow us to create some appearance options. So as soon as I do that, we can see that we can add additional fills and strokes to that. So I'll click the Add New Fill button at the bottom of the Appearance panel. And I'll click the Fill Color box and select the pattern swatch named USGS8B Intermit Pond. And that's a little pattern swatch. Now, if I click the word opacity, that will bring up the transparency panel, and I'll change the opacity to 20% so that we can see through that pattern swatch a little bit. Now we can reorder our appearance attributes just like we can in the Layers panel. We can move layers around in there. So I'm going to click the bottom kind of gray shape behind the text at the bottom of the artwork. And then in the Appearance panel, I'll drag the bottom fill attribute row that has the pattern swatch applied up above the original fill attribute row. And when I see a solid line appear above there, that means I've got my layer in place. And now we can see that pattern fill there. So a little introduction to the Appearance panel. It's a very useful panel and tool to create interesting effects to our shapes and objects.